Let's start with this. Trauma doesn't just hurt you in the moment it happens. It changes the way your brain, your body, and your heart understand the world. And here's the part nobody tells you: trauma teaches you how to survive, but it doesn't always teach you how to live. If you grew up in a home where yelling, silent treatment, or manipulation were part of the daily routine, your nervous system learned to normalize chaos. Your body started to believe that walking on eggshells was love. That being disrespected, dismissed, or ignored was just the price you had to pay to keep the peace. We don't talk enough about how deeply trauma rewires the way we see ourselves, our relationships, and our worth. When you've been hurt, especially at a young age, your body doesn't just remember the pain. It builds a manual for survival. And here's the tough part. That manual doesn't always teach you healthy love, safe boundaries, or self-respect. Instead, it teaches you to normalize pain, to minimize your needs, and to tolerate disrespect in order to keep the peace. So let's walk through 7 powerful truths about how trauma trains us to accept disrespect and what it takes to break free. Trauma redefines what feels normal. Trauma doesn't just leave scars, it rewires your brain. And here's the thing most people don't realize. It doesn't just teach you how to survive. It quietly teaches you how to accept what should never be acceptable. Imagine growing up in a house where yelling was the soundtrack of every dinner, where criticism was constant and your feelings were dismissed, where love was conditional and approval had to be earned. That chaos, because it's all you knew, becomes your definition of a normal. Your brain says, this is life. This is how people treat each other. So as an adult, when someone raises their voice, ignores you, or dismisses your feelings, it doesn't trigger alarm bells the way it should. It feels familiar. It feels safe. Even if it hurts, your body registers it as expected. Here's the cruel twist. Trauma rewires your nervous system to prioritize survival over well-being. Your brain learns it's better to accept this than to risk conflict, rejection, or abandonment. And so disrespect stops feeling like disrespect. It feels like life. This is why so many trauma survivors find themselves in relationships or friendships where they are repeatedly mistreated. It's not that they don't deserve better. It's not that they're weak. It's that their brains have been trained to equate safety with endurance, to see love through the lens of neglect, manipulation, or chaos. The danger is that over time, this rewiring becomes self-reinforcing. You start excusing behavior you should never tolerate. You justify lies, you endure insults, you shrug off actions that violate your boundaries, all because they feel normal. And the longer this continues, the harder it becomes to recognize what healthy love, respect, and care actually feel like. But here's the critical insight. Just because trauma trained you to accept disrespect doesn't mean you're stuck there. Awareness is the first step. Understanding how your nervous system has been conditioned allows you to start rewiring it, to start creating a new baseline where respect isn't optional. It's expected, where love doesn't hurt, where being seen, heard, and valued is not a luxury, but a given. This isn't just theory. It's lived experience. Every small choice to honor yourself, to speak up, to enforce boundaries is a little act of defiance against the programming trauma wrote into you. And slowly, but powerfully, you reclaim what should have never been stolen. Your sense of what is normal, what is acceptable, and what you deserve. Silence becomes your survival strategy. One of the most insidious ways trauma trains you to accept disrespect is by teaching you to stay silent. It starts early. Maybe as a child, every time you spoke your truth, you were ignored, shamed, or punished. Maybe asking for what you needed felt dangerous. Maybe raising your voice or saying, "This hurts me," led to anger, withdrawal, or ridicule. So your body learned a critical survival skill. Don't speak. Don't challenge. Don't risk being seen as difficult. Silence became your shield. It became the only way to keep yourself safe. And here's the problem. That skill doesn't automatically disappear when you grow up. It lingers hidden beneath the surface, ready to make you shrink whenever someone crosses your boundaries. In adulthood, this looks like swallowing insults instead of responding, laughing off disrespect instead of calling it out, pretending you're okay when you're not. Your voice, your power, quieted, not because it wasn't important, but because speaking it felt unsafe. Trauma teaches you that silence equals survival, but it also convinces you that silence equals peace. You start to believe that enduring disrespect quietly is the mature or loving choice. You train yourself to tolerate behavior that is unacceptable because confrontation feels scary. Your nervous system becomes hyper-aware of potential threats, and your natural instinct is to stay small, keep quiet, and hope things don't escalate. And the longer you stay silent, the more it reinforces the pattern. Your brain begins to expect that your needs and feelings will always be dismissed, so you stop even noticing when boundaries are crossed. Disrespect becomes part of the background noise of your life, something you simply deal with rather than challenge. But here's the truth. Silence may keep you physically safe in the moment, but it comes at a cost. Every time you don't speak up, a little piece of your authenticity is lost. Every time you swallow your feelings, your self-worth shrinks a little more. And every time you let someone disrespect you without response, your nervous system learns to tolerate harm as normal. Healing begins the moment you reclaim your voice. It starts with recognizing that silence was a survival skill, not a reflection of your value. It grows each time you practice saying, "This is not okay," or "I deserve respect." Slowly, your nervous system learns that speaking your truth doesn't mean danger. It means freedom. It means presence. It means reclaiming the power that trauma tried to take from you. Silence might have saved you once, but now your voice is your superpower. And the more you use it, the more you retrain your body and mind to expect respect instead of tolerating disrespect. You confuse control with love. Trauma has a way of twisting the way you see love. When you've experienced manipulation, emotional unpredictability, or coercion, your brain can start equating control with care. And this is one of the most dangerous lessons trauma can teach. Think back to the people in your life who tried to control you. Maybe a parent who dictated every choice, a partner who monitored your every move, a friend who demanded constant attention. At the time, they might have framed it as concern, as protection, as a "because I love you." And because your nervous system was on high alert, you believed them. You learned to accept control as proof of affection. This creates a confusing pattern in adulthood. You find yourself drawn to partners, bosses, or friends who monitor you, criticize you, or dominate decisions. It doesn't even feel wrong at first. In fact, it feels familiar. Your brain whispers, "This is what love looks like. This is what care feels like." The problem is control is never love. Control is fear disguised as care. It is insecurity masquerading as devotion. And trauma primes you to see the two as one. You tolerate possessiveness, you excuse jealousy, and you stay in situations where someone limits your freedom, all because deep down you've been conditioned to believe it's normal or even loving. And over time, this confusion erodes your sense of self. You start questioning your instincts, wondering if independence or boundaries are selfish. You begin to believe that love requires compromise to the point of self-erasure. You forget that real love uplifts, respects, and encourages growth. It doesn't demand obedience or diminish your voice. Healing this part of trauma is about relearning what love truly is. It's about recognizing that healthy relationships honor your autonomy. That respect is a fundamental act of love. That your value doesn't increase when someone controls you. It decreases when you control to replace care. This is the subtle, often invisible work of trauma recovery. Retraining your brain to recognize the difference between control and genuine love. Every time you notice manipulation, every time you set a boundary, every time you choose people who empower rather than dominate, you are rewiring a lifetime of conditioning. The moment you see control for what it is, rather than what you were trained to believe it was, you start reclaiming your life. You start seeing love as a partnership, not a cage. And that clarity, though it takes courage, is one of the most liberating steps in breaking the cycle of trauma. You build tolerance instead of boundaries. One of the quietest, most insidious lessons trauma teaches is this: endurance is strength, tolerance is survival. From a young age, you may have been trained to bear discomfort, absorb criticism, and weather emotional storms without complaint. You learned that if you wanted love, safety, or approval, you had to tolerate behavior that hurt you. And here's the painful reality. That training often continues well into adulthood. You tolerate friends who dismiss you, partners who belittle you, colleagues who take advantage of you, and family members who cross lines repeatedly. Over time, your brain begins to equate endurance with virtue. As strong people endure, it whispers. It's better to stay silent than risk conflict. But here's the truth trauma doesn't tell you. Endurance without boundaries is not strength. Tolerating disrespect is not bravery. It's a coping mechanism your body developed to survive in an unsafe environment. And while it may have protected you then, it now protects the wrong people from the consequences of their actions while slowly eroding your self-worth. Boundaries, on the other hand, are a revolutionary act for trauma survivors. Setting a boundary is saying, I matter. My feelings matter. I will not accept behavior that diminishes me. And for someone trained to tolerate, that act can feel radical, uncomfortable, even scary. You might fear conflict, rejection, or abandonment. You might worry that saying a no makes you unlovable. But here's the crucial insight. Boundaries are not about pushing people away. They are about drawing yourself closer to the life, relationships, and respect you deserve. Every time you tolerate what you should not, your nervous system learns that harm is acceptable. Every time you enforce a boundary, your nervous system relearns a profound truth. Respect is your baseline, not a privilege. Slowly but surely, you start to rewire your understanding of what love, care, and safety actually look like. And here's the irony trauma never warns you about. Once you start drawing boundaries, you begin attracting people who respect them. You stop shrinking to fit into other people's expectations. You reclaim space that was quietly stolen from you. Endurance is no longer the currency of your life. Clarity and self-respect are. Disrespect feels safer than respect. Here's one of the most counterintuitive truths about trauma. It makes disrespect feel familiar and respect feel foreign. When you've spent your life experiencing criticism, neglect, manipulation, or emotional unpredictability, your brain begins to normalize the chaos. You start to associate safety with what's familiar, even if it hurts you. And that's why, paradoxically, genuine respect can feel uncomfortable, even scary. Think about it. When someone truly listens to you, honors your boundaries, and treats you with kindness, your nervous system might respond with suspicion. You might ask yourself, oh, why are they being so nice? What do they want? That's trauma at work. Your body is still expecting harm, so it struggles to trust safety. This is why many trauma survivors unconsciously gravitate toward toxic relationships. They feel predictable, and predictability, no matter how painful, feels safer than the uncertainty of being treated with genuine care. Respect in all its quiet power requires vulnerability. It asks you to believe that you deserve kindness without conditions, that being treated well isn't a trap or a setup. Over time, this pattern reinforces itself. You tolerate disrespect because it's familiar. You pull away from respect because it feels unfamiliar. And the cruelest part? You may even convince yourself that you don't deserve the good treatment in the first place. But here's the awakening. Your nervous system can be retrained. Every moment you allow yourself to receive respect, every time you accept kindness without overanalyzing it, your brain begins to rewire itself. Slowly, respect stops feeling threatening. It becomes normal. It becomes expected. Healing from this is not about rushing or forcing trust. It's about small, consistent steps, choosing people who honor you, speaking your truth even when it's uncomfortable, saying, I deserve this, even if your body wants to doubt it. With each step, you create a new blueprint, one where respect is the baseline and disrespect is no longer tolerable. And when that happens, the world looks different. Relationships feel different. You begin to recognize that love and care are not earned through suffering. They are given freely to those who know their worth. You learn to carry the blame. One of the most subtle ways trauma trains you to accept disrespect is by teaching you to carry the weight of responsibility for other people's bad behavior. From a young age, you may have been made to feel that conflicts, anger, or disappointment weren't the other person's issue. They were yours. Think about it. Maybe when a parent yelled at you, it was framed as your fault. Maybe when a sibling was cruel, you were told you had deserved it. Maybe when someone in your life hurt you emotionally, you were shamed for feeling hurt. That's trauma shaping your perception. It whispers, it's never them. It's always you. As a result, you grow up learning to internalize blame. When someone disrespects you, you immediately ask yourself, did I provoke this? Did I overreact? Did I say something wrong? Your mind and body are trained to scrutinize yourself endlessly while rarely considering the other person's accountability. This habit becomes exhausting because you are constantly policing your own behavior to prevent disrespect, rather than recognizing that disrespect is the other person's choice, not yours. You carry guilt like a backpack that was never meant for you. And each time you take responsibility for someone else's harmful actions, your sense of self-worth erodes a little more. The cruel irony is that this self-blame keeps you trapped in cycles of mistreatment. You think, if only I were better, they wouldn't have treated me this way. Meanwhile, the pattern repeats because the problem has never been you. It has been the other person's disregard for your humanity. Breaking this pattern begins with awareness. You have to recognize when your trauma is whispering lies about your responsibility. You have to ask yourself, am I actually at fault, or am I being conditioned to carry blame that isn't mine? The moment you separate your value from someone else's mistreatment, healing starts. You start to reclaim the truth that disrespect is never your fault. You start to understand that boundaries are not punishment, they are protection. And with that understanding, you gradually stop carrying the blame for behaviors you didn't create, didn't deserve, and cannot control. Learning this is not a single moment of clarity. It's a daily, sometimes uncomfortable practice. But each time you refuse to shoulder someone else's responsibility, you reclaim power, dignity, and self-respect. Trauma may have taught you to take the blame, but healing teaches you to release it. Healing means rewiring your worth. Trauma has a way of convincing you that you are not enough, and to be loved fully, not enough to be treated with respect, not enough to matter. And after years of this conditioning, it becomes deeply ingrained. But here's the truth. Trauma trained you to accept disrespect, but healing trains you to reclaim your worth. Rewiring your worth begins with awareness. It begins when you start noticing the subtle ways you have been minimizing yourself to survive. Maybe you downplay your accomplishments to avoid jealousy. Maybe you shrink yourself in conversations to avoid conflict. Maybe you tolerate disrespect because it feels safer than standing up for your needs. Each of these behaviors was a survival mechanism, a way to navigate a world that felt unsafe. And while they may have protected you then, they now limit you. They keep you trapped in cycles of disrespect, self-doubt, and unworthiness. Healing is about dismantling those patterns piece by piece. It's about choosing every day to honor your voice, your boundaries, and your feelings. It's about telling your nervous system, I am worthy. I deserve respect. I am enough. Slowly, your body learns that these statements are true. Your brain begins to rewire itself to recognize safety, care, and genuine love instead of chaos and manipulation. This process is not linear. There will be setbacks. There will be moments where your old survival strategies try to pull you back, where you feel compelled to tolerate disrespect because it's familiar. But each time you resist, each time you practice self-respect, you are rewiring your nervous system and redefining your baseline. Rewiring your worth also means redefining your relationships. You start to seek out people who lift you up instead of tearing you down. You begin to set boundaries that protect your emotional and mental health. You learn to listen to the signals of your body, your intuition, and your heart, instead of ignoring them to avoid discomfort. The ultimate lesson here is profound. Trauma may have trained you to accept disrespect, but it cannot dictate your future. Healing gives you the tools to reclaim your dignity, your self-respect, and your power. It teaches you that respect is not earned. It is your birthright. And slowly, beautifully, you begin to live as though you always deserved it. Reclaiming your power and worth, here's the truth I want you to leave with. Trauma may have shaped how you see the world, but it does not define who you are or who you can become. Every lesson it taught you about tolerance, silence, or self-blame can be unlearned. Every pattern it ingrained can be rewired. Healing is not about forgetting the past or pretending the pain never existed. Healing is about reclaiming your power. It's about saying to yourself, I deserve respect. I deserve love. I deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. It's about learning to stand in your truth, even when your body trembles, even when your mind doubts, even when the world tells you otherwise. The path won't always be easy. Old fears will surface. Old habits will try to pull you back. But each step you take towards self-respect, each boundary you set, each voice you raise is a victory. Each moment is a declaration that you will no longer accept less than you deserve. So today, let this be your call to courage. Honor your boundaries, speak your truth, embrace respect, and reclaim your worth. Trauma may have trained you to accept disrespect, but your healing, your strength, and your clarity will train the world to see you differently. Because here's the most powerful truth of all. The respect, love, and dignity you've been searching for have always been yours to claim. It's time to take it back.